here to start with, like normal. I think most of us are getting to know each other, but for those that don't, I'm here at work with WDVA right now. I am the web internal and external at the WDVA. My colleague retired a month ago. And so today I found out that the position will be held for a few months.
Oh,
so,
that's lovely.
Yeah, I got a new boss yesterday, and the new boss was introduced by the IT director, and he says, well, why don't you tell him what you do? Right now, I'm a juggler. So, that's me.
Phil Staley, Department of Children and Families.
Nate Millen, DPI.
Bill Hernkey, Department of Financial Institutions.
Chris Welch, DNR.
Elisa Landgraf, DNR.
Jackie Warren, DOT.
Brian Hale, DOR.
Michael Hampton, DOR.
Tom Crawford, DOT.
Brad Foster, DOC.
Nancy Strife, DOC.
Yuhua Li, DMA.
We have a lot of.
I couldn't hear the last one. What was that?
What's that?
Where do you work?
EMA? Department
Military Affairs. Okay, thanks.
The one we're always threatened to be merged with.
Oh, yeah.
WDVA and DNA. Yeah. So,
Then one more.
Finishing up introductions. We're all of us.
Stu. Veterans Affairs.
I'm with the staff with Department of Transportation, Division of Transportation Systems Development. I'm one of the .NET Web Administrators, and I work out of the Eau Claire office.
You get the award for traveling furthest, though, I think.
All right, what is the award, Candy?
You get complete use of the water fountain in your hair.
No fees. Yeah.
All the pine floats that you want.
Okay.
I think maybe, since I think everybody that's coming is going to be here, we'll let Matt get started with his presentation. And we'll do that. We kind of merge into kind of a combined open forum and leadership discussion for SWAG, because I've been the one since we resurrected it that's been putting everything together, basically, doing the mailing, and that's probably out of the question while the position is open, honestly, because in addition to that, we're in the process of redesigning our internet and redesigning our intranet and also switching technologies. So I think my plate is pretty much full until we get some help. So we've got a couple people that have stepped part of it up, but we'll have to have somebody that's following through with some things and do that. So, Matt, why don't you start with a little introduction of yourself and what you do here, and then go with workflows.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Matt Niehaus. I'm the Webmaster and Lead Government Director at the Department of Safety and Professional Services. I work with our intra and internet sites. We have two main SharePoint sites, and that's what I'll be touching on today. One is our intranet site, and we also have the internet site that is used by our plan reviewers and our board members and our external field office staff to do various things. They do a whole bunch of different stuff. It's all broken off onto separate sub-sites of these main ones. What I'm going to go through right now are just basically what we've built in the last year at DSPS on our SharePoint sites. Some of these are fairly basic, and a lot of these are actually stuff that can be managed or even developed by non-technical staff, because SharePoint Designer is not an incredibly complicated language to write in. I'm going to open up the Agenda Deadlines Calculator first off. What this is a site on our intranet site. It's called Connect Us. And basically, our staff put in whenever they're going to have a board meeting here, they would upload a meeting date and then select staff members who are going to be involved in that meeting, And what this does is it goes through, checks against those staff members, sends them alerts at key points in the meeting process. So when the agenda deadline is going to happen, we used to mail out our agendas, so it alerts them when they would need to send the mailing. Now it actually alerts them whenever they need to post it to the board member's SharePoint site. So it just sends them these little electronic reminders whenever something's about to pop up. And we can build that out to update anybody in the agency who needs to know. So if somebody's watching the Board of Nursing, we're able to send an automated update to them saying Board of Nursing is going to have their meeting in 5 days, make sure you attend, that sort of stuff. We also have a calendar that feeds off of this. It's a little sloppy, but basically what it has is every meeting or screening panel that we have in the agency listed out on it. There are sub-views of this that you can bring up to just show the board meetings if that was what you were looking for. So you can see who's meeting, what rooms, when. It basically functions like our Outlook calendar, and we're not able to do this with our SharePoint site because of how we have it structured with DET. But if you were building an internal site yourself, you would be able to structure this to integrate with your Outlook calendars. So if you have a meeting that gets regular reservations or something like that, you could have this feed into that Outlook calendar, and then you'd never need to actually post a meeting to that. You just have it on your site in the calendar, and everything feeds through that way. Another thing that we've got is our position action request system. Our Human Resources Department actually reported to me that they found that we have the fastest hiring times of any agency in the state. We're able to fill a position in 45 days on average. And it's thanks largely in part to some efficiencies we did and the system that we use for position action requests. We have previously had a document library where staff would upload a form, and then it would send out emails and alert them, and they'd have to fill in tasks. We got this all cleared through OSER, where we don't actually need to have anybody's physical signature on hiring paperwork. It's all just requires their electronic signature. So if they were at the computer and they logged in, they said approve, good, we're able to hire them. We're able to get through to the beginning of the recruitment process basically in a day of somebody making a request. So it goes to the division administrator and it zips around the department, and it fills positions really, really quickly for us. This was the original system where we had users upload documents. We were finding some issues with this one because we were actually trying to originally go with digital signatures, and as you probably know, if you edit a Word document, it'll put that little invalid signature in there, and we didn't want to have printouts of these because we are required to still print them out for audits to say invalid signature on every signature line. So we switched to using a form, a list-based option. So a staff member basically just clicks a button on our home page, and it opens up a new item in this list. It's only available for supervisors, but they would click on this and it would create basically a new position for them to just fill out the information. It does the exact same stuff as the previous system. It creates tasks that go out to our division administrators or whoever needs to go on in the approval process, and then when it finally finishes up with those, it goes through and it takes the information from that list item and pumps it into a template Word document. And then it takes all that information, fills it in, and then it creates the form for our HR staff. So they're able to say, okay, so-and-so starting on this date, we need to get out an appointment letter. We had planned on building it to automatically generate those appointment letters, but we found out that there are just too many types and they're based off of too many different variables. So we shied away from that, but it does tell them this is the person, this is what they're getting paid, when they're starting, all that fun stuff. So they don't even need to come to the site. Everything that's completed on the forms goes out in the emails. So a normal staff person who's involved in this process doesn't actually do anything. They don't need to come to the SharePoint site. They can if they want to look at stuff, but we've built it in such a way that if there is somebody who's averse to using it or doesn't feel comfortable navigating it, we can skirt around that and just have them use the emails. So that takes care of everything that we built out on our intranet site. We've also, it's a SharePoint site, so we have document libraries. We have links on the side to useful things for staff. We have some training videos that we put up here. We cycle them out whenever it's relevant. So this is, we found a good way to make it so that our intranet site is actually used by staff by putting applications that the staff are going to use on it. And that's where they get, this is where they get pretty much all of their access to certain chunks of things that they do with the department. So we have 3 divisions. They need to click this link in order to do most of their work. This ICE link down here is for our credentialing database. So they have to come to this site. We don't really let them bookmark out elsewhere, and that way we're able to keep giving them updates or get them to know, here's where you're going to find the new form that we did for, I don't know, we had an employee handbook revision that we did, and staff had to turn in handbook acknowledgement forms at this link. So we have a view in there where the staff are able to view their own forms, but they're not able to view anybody else's, so they can say, yes, I took care of this. Going out to our intranet site, this site is restricted, so there are permissions that are set up so that not anyone can jump in and access it. But this is our reimbursement section. We're building this in advance of the STAR project, and we're actually working on getting some of the imagery used in the STAR project so we can have this site cosmetically mirror what staff are going to be seeing when they go to STAR, just sort of ease them into uploading their reimbursement forms, uploading their original receipts, that sort of stuff. What this gives us the ability to do, we had a lot of complaints from our field staff that they never knew when their reimbursements were happening or what step of the process it was. It gives them the ability to come in here and just click on this travel status button, and it shows a breakdown of what the item was that they submitted. It does some automatic renaming so that there's no goofy business going on with any of that. So it takes their username and puts in the date they submitted it and what it was they submitted. And it says what step of the process the item's at. This is only showing my test items that I've submitted. But if a staff member were to log into this, they would see their items all listed out so that they could say, okay, my travel voucher from July is still sitting with fiscal. I need to get on the financial officer, or I need to get with my supervisor and find out what's going on here. So it's all built in. There's all these tracking mechanisms, and it calculates out so that they know when that reimbursement is going to be happening, so that they'll get an email as well, letting them know, expect to see it then. Because we have some staff who are getting, they don't get paid more, but they get paid close to their normal pay in just like gas reimbursements sometimes, because they're driving all over the North Woods pretty much 24/7, not 24/7, but 8/7. So we've got, this is very useful for them to be able to stay up to date on that stuff. And all of these items are for our fiscal staff. They really like that they can just export it to Excel. That's something you can do with SharePoint, and any user who's got suitable permissions over the library is able to click that button. So they can just shoot out Excel reports right from there, delete the items they don't need, and then they've got what they need for their audits. So if I were to click this right here, it would open up an Excel doc. But it would take all of those and pop it into an Excel document that's already got sorting turned on. So you're able to view really anything that they would normally put into their Excel documents. It also has the ability to export it to Access. I don't believe this machine has Access on it, so I'm not going to demo that. We built out our performance evaluation system on SharePoint. So staff are able to get, we recently started doing quarterly performance evaluations at the agency. So a supervisor has a work area that they're able to view. I'm able to view the whole thing because I'm on the administrative account, but if a supervisor comes in, they're only going to see their area and the area they're supervised under. So they'll come in and upload a relevant item into the supervisor drop-off area. They can attach a performance rating in here, and then what the workflow does is once they've uploaded that item, it kicks off a process, checks to make sure they've uploaded an appropriate item to the folder, and then it will alert, if it's for the quarterly one, it alerts the staff member If it's for a annual one, it goes through the appropriate approval. So it may have a bureau director, it may have a division administrator, may need to go before the deputy secretary, depending on the position. And that's all built into the workflow to identify what group this person's in, and if they're in a certain group, then it routes it according to that, that group that they're in. And then each staff member gets a copy of the performance evaluation in their folder. These folders are available to the staff member at all times. They're available online, so they're able to come in from home and access them, especially for our field staff. This gives them a chance to have more interaction with their supervisor. And if there is a staff member who has a problem, it allows the supervisor to work towards correcting that problem more efficiently rather than hitting them at the end of the year with an unsatisfactory rating. They'll see, you know, the building trend and be able to hopefully try to correct for whatever is going on. We've also got for our board members, the agency has just under 60 boards and councils, I believe, for various professions, and staff are able to upload items for the board members' consumption here. They drop them off into a drop-off library. So if I were to come in here as a staff member, I would put an item into here for a board member, designate if it's going to be for open or closed session. We have, most of our boards have a closed session. So what we're planning on building out is a public version of this site that looks through and only shows the open session items to members of the public. It would route the closed session items off. There would be a person who would check to make sure we're not accidentally putting something out in the public eye that shouldn't be out there. But basically this would be revamping our current agenda creation process, so we can get items out as soon as they come in rather than waiting to build out an agenda, so that we can get things out to the public and to our board members quicker. Board members are also able to do their screening online. We have a folder set up for all the board members. Each one of them is password protected, so they're able to access. Usually our largest board gets somewhere around 8,000 pages a month of paper material that they would need to go through. And we had been mailing this out at rather substantial cost of the department. By going to this, just to get it out to those individual staff, we're looking to save probably around $40,000 a year in mailing costs and copier maintenance and that sort of stuff. And the final one that we've got, this isn't so much related to workflows, but this is the bulk of our SharePoint usage comes through the e-plan review site. If somebody needs to submit a plan for like a septic tank or a building, our agency is the one that regulates that, and we do all the safety checks and all that sort of stuff. So whenever a building plan is uploaded to us in the state of Wisconsin, it goes onto this site, and our staff work with the member of the public who submitted it, so they're able to get live back and forth feed of this is where your problem is, this is where your problem is. So like if there was, this could have potential application with like the DNR, I'd imagine. If you had somebody who submitted a form or something, you can access that and work with them rather than send them back a copy. Send them, send them. It's just one living document that both parties are able to edit freely. It keeps a history of what that document was. So you've got that versioning, so you can know this is what the older one was. You're not doing this right. You've got that legal backup as well. So that's basically what we've got so far. All of these were built out within the last year or so. And they were all built within SharePoint Designer, which is a fairly easy program to use. This is, if we were to open up the program, this is SharePoint Designer 2010. 2013, which is what most of you are probably going to be using, especially if you're working with Win. 2013 is very similar to this cosmetically and functionally. There are a couple of minor changes here and there are some nice add-ons that you can get. Like for instance, we have an add-on running on our external SharePoint site that lets us send out emails with attachments from elsewhere on the site brought in. The internal site is not running that add-in right now. So you can look around and find various third-party little apps you put in to enhance your SharePoint sites. One big one that we're working on right now is a ability for approvers to approve multiple items simultaneously, because in default SharePoint, you have to go to each item you're approving and hit approve, approve, approve. This way we'd be able to bulk approve a large set of items. It's being looked at for our fiscal travel project, since if they've already looked at them once, they don't need to do it again. It speeds things up a little bit. If I were to open one of these up, like this is the one that calculates out the holidays for the agenda deadlines, it's fairly basic when you look at the actual. Can you guys read that okay? Or? Okay. So it's fairly basic. You just basically type in English what you want it to do. So like this one, it's checking to see Labor Day. It's calculating out what holidays are. You could do this in an Excel spreadsheet, but it needs to be done within SharePoint in order for it to be able to calculate it out. So it's basically fairly similar to the Excel formulas that you would otherwise normally use to calculate out holidays. One better example is probably under our position action request approval site. If I were to open this one up, what it does is it goes through, and this is where it would be renaming an item. So if you have problems with users submitting documents that don't have, that you want to force a naming convention onto them, for whatever reason, we were having some issues with our policy development section. They would be receiving items that didn't have a coherent naming structure. We didn't know what was going to go where in an agenda, who it was supposed to be for. There were some instances where we'd accidentally put an open session item in close or vice versa, and we quickly have to scramble to fix that. This forces those items to have the correct name because it builds off of metadata that the users enter, rather than letting user error fill in the cracks. There still could be user error if somebody clicked open on a closed session item, but that's why we have those approval users who would say, okay, this is actually open, this is actually closed, this is actually a stipulation, this is actually somebody's application for a barber license or something like that. So they're able to check that. What this one does is it goes through and it checks to see who the staff person is, finds out what division is being hired for, makes sure there's attachments to the item. If there isn't an attachment, it pauses and then it sends them an alert, and then it starts collecting approvals. And each approval step is basically the same as the other one. So like if I were to click on this, it's going to show what goes into building the division administrator approval step. All they need to fill in is if they approve, and if they're going to reject, they'd have a reason for rejection box. If they reject, the system is able to send an automated email out to the staff member, letting them know that their form was rejected by the division administrator for X reason. It's all just a very basic but still fairly powerful system to allow them to get that message out. And all the other sites, the approval workflows are all fairly similar in nature to this one. You can build them to be more robust, like this one down here. The budget director approval, they have to submit a lot of information rather than just, I approve of this. So it collects all that information through this form approval right here. There's just a slew of data that's collected from them, and then it makes decisions based on that data. So if they miss a chunk of that data, I believe this might be, I'm looking at the old one, it has a thing built in where it would report out, hey, submit this thing with the appropriation correctly listed or something along those lines. And that's basically it for what we've got with our SharePoint workflows. Does anyone have any questions?
Did I hear you say there is a form that they fill out at the front end of this, and then this workflow uses the data?
Yep. There's a form that they fill out. Let me find the. So if the form that's filled out actually is so like a normal staff person comes, a supervisor rather than a normal staff person, but they come in and they click on create new position action request right on the side of the page. Okay. Only supervisors are able to view this button. but we put it right up at the top because we are having some issues with filling positions. So they click that button and then boom, this is the form that they fill out. Instead of a Word document or instead of a paper form, they just fill this out. And then once they fill this out and they list their division and fill in only the required fields, we give them the ability, like with a limited term employment, they would have the ability to fill in more than that. So they've got optional fields that are listed. But normally all that's required is if the position's vacant, the position number, the classification name, which is a list of all the classifications in the state, so that we don't have anybody who's accidentally listing the wrong classification, what type of position it's going to be, and where it's going to be recruited at. Once they hit save on this, it sends an email immediately, as long as they've uploaded a position description, to the division administrator, and it starts off the hiring process. If they don't attach something, it sends them an email reminding them to attach something, so that, and then it's got a link that they click on to go to attach the item.
So are you are you pulling that list of classification names from OSER, or?
We got a list from OSER, and we basically just have the one that we have at that point in time. It's not a constantly updating list. It's possible to build that in SharePoint. There's some external data stuff that you can link up with. We just haven't. It's not worth the time investment because the list isn't updated often enough to warrant it. And then with the really cool thing with this is we're able to get all of our report outs like that. So if we want to see how long it took to do any recruitment in the agency, we just click on the completed list up here, switch from current to completed, and that's all of them right there. Everything that's been hired since we took the system live. It can be sent to an Excel document so that all of our recruitments can be listed in a nice little list for HR with it was approved at this point in time by this person, this point in time by this person, this point in time by this person, so that they can see where the inefficiencies are at, or they can see if like there were any issues for the audits. They can show that pretty quickly and easily.
And how long have you been using this?
This version of the system has been around since April. The previous iteration of it has been around since, I think we started it in December of last year. Our other workflows we've been using since the oldest one we've got, we started back in October of 2012, but the bulkier ones are the ones that we've been using within the last year. The one that calculates out the agenda deadlines was the earliest one that we built out, and that's just a simple, what date, add this many days to it, skip over the weekends, check if there are holidays, that sort of stuff. These ones are a lot more robust in terms of what they can accomplish, and we're only just scratching the surface, I think, with a lot of the capability that you've got with SharePoint in terms of approvals, because we've got staff members who, this is mostly just being used by HR and fiscal, our management services division right now. We're looking at possible applications outside of that. So like with our policy development team, they're some of the first ones who are getting on board with using this for actual normal day-to-day functions, like sending out those agendas to the board members and to the public so that people can see what's going on with the agency, with the boards that they're trying to follow. We've got stuff that we're looking at doing with our credentialing department where people will be able to do a check on their license status. We've got an online licensure application system, and basically we have a SharePoint site that runs in conjunction with that one. So it is spreading out from our management services division. It started there, and as more and more people started using it, mostly the supervisors, because they're filling out the position requests, and they're saying, hey, this is actually working pretty quickly. I'm seeing a lot of stuff in here. It's giving me metrics, and I don't have to actually track them in manually. Then it started to just branch out. And SharePoint Designer, it's a little tricky for a non-technical person to learn, but it's not impossible for, if you've got somebody who's fairly comfortable, if you've got just a regular web content manager or something like that, this is something that you could probably trust them with, at least in some capacity, so that they could play around with it and develop something on the fly for whatever purpose you need.
I was just wondering, maybe you said this already, but because you're doing the quarterly performance reviews, was that because of the efficiency of the system, or did he build it on the requirement that you were going to have quarterly reviews?
It was born out of a lean project that looked at the whole situation. The system that we built was built in response to the desire to do a 4 performance evaluations in a year, so that there's if a supervisor were to leave, we had an issue with supervisors who were leaving, and then performance evaluations would be due in a week. And you cannot do a year's evaluation on somebody you've known for 3 days and expect that to be accurate or truthful or, really even help them at all. So that's why they started doing this system where they do it every 4. It's a little more work on a regular basis for supervisors and for staff because they do see these, every 3 months. However, there's no rush at the end of the year where supervisors are taking an entire month to just do performance evaluations for their staff. We have some supervisors who have upwards of, I think, 30 staff members, some who have the 2 or 3. So the 2 or 3 weren't seeing that problem, but the ones who have a lot of staff were like, this is terrible, we can't keep doing it this way. And if one of those people were to leave and then somebody comes on with 2 months to spare and they need to evaluate everyone's performance, that would create a serious problem.
Sure. Yeah, thanks.
Who is coming to you with these ideas for these applications?
A lot of them are coming out of lean projects. We have a fairly healthy lean culture at the agency. So the bulk of them are coming from there. A lot of the earlier, lighter ones I just built not for fun, but because I had a problem and I wanted to solve it.
Right.
And we have some staff members who are getting training in this who, without needing a lean project, are looking at doing some basic ones, kind of like the agenda deadlines thing, where they'd be able to say, okay, I uploaded the document here, I need a reminder in 5 days. I just need that little bonus, just tell me to get this thing done because I'm going to forget about it, and I always ignore my Outlook tasks, so I need to have a full-on email. We have some staff who are looking at doing it like that.
So you are part of the lean project or the lean staff, right? You said
I'm the lean project director.
Okay.
But we have around, I want to say 20 staff who are trained in at least 6 Sigma Yellow Belt.
Sure. Are you sharing each of these project ideas with the other agencies?
Yep. When we go to the lean point of contact meeting, we do discuss what's going on in each agency, and then I have touched base on SharePoint with them. I think it was actually last week.
Sure.
Yeah, we talked about that. The lean point of contacts committee has actually started their own SharePoint site, and it may be possible that we're going to start seeing some of just the data that's coming out of this going on to that, and it could be that it would feed out into other agencies through there. I mean, it's hard to do a copy-paste of what we've done here and apply it to any other agency because you're going to have different requirements for who sees what, how it goes there. But building it out from scratch really doesn't take that much time, especially after you've learned how to use SharePoint Designer.
As an example, we have at the DOT with the lean initiative as well, we've got a couple of workflows that came out of that group as well. We're looking for more. And one of the challenges that we have is, where do these ideas come from? How do we evangelize the application to them, train them on what it can do, and then get them thinking how they can apply their processes within the system, and then come to us and have us build it. So that's kind of been somewhat of a challenge, but with the lean initiative, it's been simple, because that's all those guys are dealing with, is how to make things more efficient. So, but since if you've got a few ideas here, I'd like to maybe present to our lean guys to see if they're aware of them, because there's similar processes that every agency has. So
yeah, especially in HR, which is where we started pretty much.
Definitely HR.
Yeah. I'd definitely be willing to do that. I've actually been helping out with a similar project to our position action request system at Veterans Affairs. So if you do have any questions, I hesitate to say send everything to me, but if you have any any inquiries or something that I can help out with.
I'll just do a name drop.
Yeah.
You know Lori Richter?
Yeah. No, Lori.
Do we have one?
And so do you host your own SharePoint site?
Our SharePoint site, our IT is managed, with the exception of certain roles, is managed by the Department of Administration, DET. So they host the site. They host both sites, the intranet and the internet site. They used to be hosted here. So we, I mean, it's...
So are you planning for a transition to 2013 or?
With Connect Us, the intranet site, we may be. We're looking at doing a rebuild of the site fairly shortly. And one of the things that we're actually looking about doing in mind with the Lean project thing, we're going to be putting we're probably going to be putting a option for staff members to submit suggestions for process improvements right on the site. That way they'll be able to route up and through so that they're more organic rather than only coming from Lean team. So it might be something to do if you have a SharePoint site like this that staff members are going to be using. It's very easy to make a form like that where they can just funnel things in.
I might have missed it, but did you show like a public interface to this, or isn't there one?
There is and there isn't. This is public. If I hit a couple of keystrokes on any one of these things, it goes out to public and they can type in a link and go straight to it. I'm not going to demonstrate that because I'd be violating God knows how many laws, but it's very easy to turn something into a public version. And what we're looking at doing right now is taking this drop-off library, this basically thing that we're using for our agenda
basically
items
password
submission,
access,
and having a public library. Instead of, right now we've got, I go to our website, and I go to our boards. Each board has its own like agendas and meeting minutes here. So if I click on this, it would go to this. And all of everything that's on here, these are all documents that are created by staff. They take days to make a lot of these things. So they would make this whole document and they publish it out to the site. This one would probably not take very long to make because it looks like it's a fairly short one. But instead of having this PDF document sitting out there, we just have a link to a listing of all the individual items that are being considered by the board. That way there wouldn't be that single unified document. It'd be, okay, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's this. So that instead of needing to download what is sometimes like a 300 megabyte file, you click on it and be like, oh, I really only want to see the appeal of Bryant and Stratton to the Board of Nursing. You click on that, 2 megabyte file, boom, done. That's all you need to see. And that's a big thing with our public, the people who attend our meetings from the public, because they come in for one item. They're not, most of them are not coming in to see the board's last minutes be finalized or to look at one educational institution's 400-page review. They're coming in for this one item here, and that this would speed things up for them, cut down on the amount of resources we're sending out, because the bulk of our files that are downloaded off our site are these agendas. In terms of file size, we have a lot more stuff that gets downloaded, like applications forms and all that sort of stuff. But when you've got a 100 megabyte file that a bunch of doctors in the state are looking at every month versus a 20 kilobyte file that's getting downloaded by a couple of doctors as well, the 100 megabyte one tends to offset that smaller one, even if there's a larger traffic for the smaller one. And this would help us cut down on how much we're sending out. The interface with SharePoint is malleable. It does not look, you don't have to have it look like this or this. You can go in and edit the master page. And actually with 2013, it includes the master pages from 2003 and 2010 and 2007. So you could actually go in and revert a 2013 if you like this look better. You can do that. I'd recommend against doing it. 13's a little prettier.
I wouldn't promise that you can do that.
No.
I've done it with 10 back to 7, and I tested it with 13, and I had some issues.
Well, we're trying to currently set up a intranet site using 2013, and up until what, a month ago, we couldn't edit any of the master pages because they hadn't figured out how to release that permission.
Yeah, master pages can be fun.
Yeah.
But you can edit them.
You can.
They can if the permissions are set right.
If they, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Who hosts your?
DET.
Administrator sets your permissions on?
The DOA.
Oh, over there, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't in SAR.
Was that on?
It's an internal one.
Yeah, no.
Was that on agency or web apps or?
Agency.
Oh, yeah.
You guys have site collection administration? Or you don't?
Uh-huh.
It still wouldn't let you do it.
Nope.
Need some central administration for that.
Spread pretty thin.
Yeah.
Our staff.
Every time we turned around, I was like, oh, yeah,
Over
there's
2013.
one more thing we have to turn on for you. And then they would go in.
Yeah. If you can get access to central administration, do it, but it's going to be an uphill battle probably with DET. But if you can pull it off, that solves a lot of problems. Or if you set it up yourself and you can get access to that central administration.
Yeah, the other issue is we want our intranet to be completely behind our firewall so that you have to be in one of our buildings to be able to see it. Because none of our documents are public at that point because it's taxpayer information. And DET has not figured out how to do that yet. You can still technically see I mean, if you have to have a password to get in, but
it's still protected, but it's not.
It's not
how you.
Yeah, it's not the way our guideline is that it has to be protected. So. Yeah.
The designer was different in 13.
Yeah, it's much.
Yeah, I've played around. The DVA site I'm assisting with is a SharePoint 2013 site, and I've peeked in there. It looks. I mean, it's similar in the right ways, and it's dissimilar in the wrong ways.
Yeah.
So there is a learning curve to using 2013 Designer that I've definitely run into, but it is. I mean, it's a surmountable one if you have.
It's much better for workflows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful with workflows.
Yeah, but
And
actually,
cosmetically, it looks a little nicer too.
Yeah.
They got rid of that yellow.
Is that what you're setting up at WDVA? It's just workflows?
I'm assisting Beth Bird with
yeah.
workflows here.
I don't have access to anything yet. I'm supposed to do something.
I could give you access if you want. Still got to add into your systems.
He doesn't have enough to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This lean initiative, I don't think DOC's part of it. Is that something that was just set up with X amount of agencies, or is that something?
You can buy into the lean stuff.
Oh, okay.
They rolled it out to the cabinet level agencies and a couple of other ones. And then we've had some agencies that have jumped on after the fact, like Department of Justice, just hopped on. They've been attending meetings and getting training. The state has a partnership with Waukesha County Community Technical College. And if you have staff that you want to send there, Suzanne Hawk at DOA is the point of contact for the state. She's doing a lot of stuff with that. So,
I mean, is it mostly just share resources among agencies, save money?
Are you familiar with Six Sigma? It's process
Heard
improvements.
of it.
But it's used a lot in industry for manufacturing widgets, but it does have a use in the public sector for just streamlining processes, cutting out why are we sending this to 6 different offices? Where's the value that's added by having the deputy secretary look at every new hire 3 times? I mean, ours still looks at it twice, but you can cut out one of those looks, or you can cut out physically carrying the piece of paper across the building, or sending it in the mail to this person. You can, if that would be a lean part of a lean project. It's looking at cutting out chunks of inefficiency.
Brad,
It's
you
not
probably
about
do have it
firing
at
people.
DLC.
What's that?
They probably do it at DLC. You might not have heard about it.
Yeah, it might be above my pay grade or something. All right. I was just curious about that.
If your supervisor, if the people who would make that decision want to buy in, Suzanne Hawk is the person to talk to.
Hawk like in the bird?
H-O-C-K.
H-O-C-K.
A question you were talking earlier, part of your presentation about syncing up SharePoint and Outlook information, but the DET things
Yeah.
that couldn't get done or something?
We haven't been able to get it to work yet.
I wasn't quite clear, do you have your Outlook, is that hosted at DET as well?
Yeah.
Done?
Yeah.
Exchange and everything is, okay. So I first thing in my mind was I was thinking that you were hosting one thing here, and one thing there, and it would mesh up, but it's just.
The only thing we
between
host
the
here is a
programs.
pager system.
So it's kind of a DET and Microsoft issue.
But you can make the Outlook connect to it. And if you do that, if you have Link and Outlook and you manage all that, and you have a SharePoint site, there's some really cool stuff that you can do. Actually, it works with Skype too, since Skype integrated a lot of the stuff that you see in Link. I don't have Skype on this machine, but if I were to have it, whenever you mouse over somebody, if they're a contact in Skype/Link, it brings up their contact card. So like if I were to mouse over Yelena's name right here, and I had one of those programs installed, it would drop down with, you know, call, send message, all the things that you can normally access through there. So it's actually really cool because if you're looking at a document and it says last modified by X, instead of needing to open up your email or give them a call or anything, you just drop down that thing. It's a pretty neat feature, and it shows if they're online at that point in time. It gives a little button right next to it that's colorized depending on if they're away or busy, or if they're at their desk, or if they're set to invisible or whatever. It shows a different coloration on that little dot. It's actually pretty cool.
The other question is not so much SharePoint, but you mentioned training videos. I'm having a big issue with training videos right now. That ours, at one point, they said they wanted to use Camtasia Studio, and they brought them to me, and I put them up. Everything was working fine in Camtasia, upgraded, put in a new player. I don't know what's going on with them, what browser they're going to work in or what they won't work in. I'm just wondering what you use for yours. I
use Virtual Dub. It's a free program. That's what we're using, and you basically just chuck files in there. It's really, really bare bones. You're not going to be adding a lot of special effects through Virtual Dub. But you can use Virtual Dub, or there's some other free utilities out there that you can use to edit the video, or at least get it into a more presentable format if your Camtasia is acting funky.
And then what is it, MP4s?
We put them out in, well, it saves in AVI, and then we put it up on YouTube, and so then it's an MP4 then if you download it, but it's saved in AVI.
And that's what I think I'm going to do for my quick fix, is just put it up on YouTube and run it through and then download it and then put that up on the site. So.
Yeah.
Any more questions for Matt? Okay, Dave, next meeting, we're going to be open forum. Whatever you run into.
Thanks.
Thank you, Matt. Probably the biggest issue that we have for swag right now really is just the running of it, basically setting up meetings, getting the information out on the website. Brad has volunteered at the last meeting, the last meeting.
Yes.
To work on the website.
And I checked with my supervisor, Kathy, and as long as I don't take inordinate amounts of time, and this is something I should be able to do from home too, right?
Yeah,
Get
it's
into
a login that you do.
once I get the access.
Yeah, just like Matt has been working with my colleague Beth.
Okay.
He's over here, and it's hosted at DET, and so you just log in over the internet.
But yeah, I mean, I'm still working on the access, or I haven't heard anything back, I should say.
Nothing on either one yet?
No.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I'm kind of stuck right now. Is there anything I can help that along without costing money? I don't know.
Probably somebody above my pay grade.
Sure.
You know, that type of thing, because I've sent several messages and say, well, what about this?
Right.
She says, I've got access that I can say, and I've set you as an admin on the site, on the SharePoint site that isn't out there, that nobody's, I mean, it's there, but that's not the one when you go for our links. We're still going to the Webs R Us one.
Okay.
And why you can't get in is beyond me. I don't know. I did 10 times to set it up, and every time you come back, no, can't do it.
Yeah, I know. Thanks for trying.
I asked Sherry, and so I'll send her an email again tomorrow, or maybe send it off to Eric or something, and ask him to look into it.
Right. Thanks.
Matt, do you know who the SharePoint people are over at DOA, or do you need to work with that type of stuff?
John Banglin and Sherry Hillary are the ones that I usually...
Hillary?
Okay, Sherry is the one, Hillary is the one that we've been working through. And
John worked with us when we set up our first, like the public site for the plan review and for the board members to get in and access that. He set up the SharePoint and all our architecture and everything. So we just sort of took it over from there. So this might be a person you want to talk to. He works with Sherry pretty much.
maybe I could set you up as an admin temporarily. You go look and see if there's something that's wrong on the inside and set up someone as admin. Or just give me another example and see. So we can try it that way.
Sure.
Does it work?
I mean, right now we have IE8. We're moving to IE10, and I'm one of the pilots on IE10. We also have to set certain things back at avoiding mode, so it's really back at IE7. So I don't know if that would have anything to do with it, or if we ruled that out, or if that's what back on the emails.
Is this 2010 or 2015?
This is in 2013.
Do you have any sort of Windows login stuff at your, I mean, how is your authentication done at DOC?
Right, I log in with the network
Do
login.
you use the enterprise ID or your internal network ID?
Internal network, and then Outlook has the account.
Do you have things that automatically, when you go to them in IE, automatically log you in?
Yeah, we have single sign-on, is that true?
You could be having a problem because of that.
Thanks.
We cannot use SharePoint in IE at DOR because it tries to use our single sign-on. Always, even if I type in the enterprise ID, it will try to send the single sign-on ID, which won't work.
I mean, we have an internal SharePoint. No, granted, it's not an external.
But it's hosted within.
Right, so that way
Ours is hosted over in DET, which requires the enterprise login, not our internal single sign-on.
Have you tried to log in from home?
So we use Chrome.
Have you tried to log in from home?
No, I should try that.
Why don't you try that for you still got the information, or I can
Yeah.
send it
No, I should
first thing in the morning. But try logging in from home and see if that works, and that'll maybe give us
At least a little
a hint that,
Sure.
yeah, there's an issue at your office.
I've got Windows 8 and IE11 on my home computer.
And what about you?
And also Chrome.
I have Chrome, Firefox, and IE11 running on mine. And Safari, I probably used it. We primarily use Firefox and Chrome. I usually have one open in each window. And if I'm dealing with something on the internet and it has to go out to staff, it mostly uses IE, then I work on IE. And if it's something new, then I'm checking it all four browsers. Dane, who is not, Dane Falstaff from DWD, who is not here today because they're launching a site this week, and so they're, I think he used the word stressed. And I think everybody here could relate to that. He had volunteered previously to work with, setting up agendas and getting the presenters, that type of thing. And so, basically we could probably run Swag with, if Dane does that and Brad works with the website, everything that we're doing now we keep doing, with the exception of presenters, and we may need to look maybe even outside of Swag going over to like the UW might be a good example. There are a lot of people that use Drupal, and there's a good Drupal group over there that might be able to pull some people in. They could come in and have a presentation, or maybe some of the vendors.
Sorry, just a little plug. There's a Drupal users group tomorrow night at 7 at the Madison Public Library downtown. So if you're interested, stop on by. Also,
I would say that's great. I need a SharePoint users group now.
There is one,
Yeah.
but I think it only meets in Milwaukee.
Yeah, probably.
They supposedly meet here, they alternate between here and Milwaukee. For the last 6 months, I haven't seen.
It's every other decade.
Yeah, yes, I haven't seen a single meeting here, they've all been in Waukesha, so.
I have gone to meetings here in Madison, but yeah, it's been over 6 months, maybe over almost a year
Since I had one here.
since they've had one here, yeah. There is a site that they have. Yeah, so they're having an issue with just, governance is just, and, somebody leaving it, so that was
Organization, it's like we had this right before.
But when we did have the meetings, we always had at least 10, 15 people at the meetings, so it was well attended.
So the one problem is when email went on last time, or last couple of times before meetings, we were going and looking at, here's the old information, what was, and send your input back and comments together. I got not one comment or, input, so, I guess if anybody wants to step forward and say, well, here's what we should do, see what happens with just Dean and Brad working with things, and go from there and see, meetings carry on or something. I myself think that, if we're going to carry on, we need to have some people that are committed to working with it. And you're always, if you're leaving it to one person or just a couple people, what happens when somebody's on vacation, what happens? I think there ought to be 5 or 6 people that are involved in a little portion, and they can step up when someone's off on vacation or somebody retires, or they're switching jobs to the private sector, or just they're not involved with that type of thing. So we don't have what happened before really was just nobody running it, so the meeting stopped. I think there's a lot of value just to the different agencies getting together with the people at our level and having a presentation on here's what we're doing, and just talking about, hey, I'm having this problem, and what do you guys do? Anybody come up with a solution for this? Because why reinvent the wheel? So we're all a resource for each other. If I've solved the problem, and okay, you got the problem next week, and I know how to solve that. And you can do that a little bit through the listserv, but I think just meeting face to face and having that rapport that you have from seeing people, it makes a big difference. You're not quite as gun shy going, hey, I want to do this or do that, or calling someone up and saying, yeah, I heard you talk at the last meeting, and I know you were doing this, and I'm running into this, and have you seen this before? Can you help me out? And I don't know, that's my opinion. I think it's very beneficial. People have to get involved, and we're going to carry on. We don't have a budget to hire people to do anything. We don't have a budget to do anything. So it's all, kind of us. So we're all in the same boat of, overloaded. We're trying to do more with less, and things are constantly changing. And in our field, we're always at the forefront of that change. We've got to make things happen for other people. So, but if we can get some support to help us out and do our job, I think that's a good thing. With that, I'll shut up and let you guys talk about it.
It seemed like at our meeting at DOR, somebody else volunteered to help out. So
I'll do what I need to do. let's talk, so we can see what he has to say. So that's out there, but I think, in my opinion, there should be something that's kind of formalized and that everybody gets their turn at it. And from that last meeting, the other issue kind of was that we should probably talk about just to see how people feel. This is just the ones that are here now. But it was raised that there was an issue like with people with van pools and such, that this timing maybe not be the best timing for people. When we had these before, we were running from 1 to 3. And this time we said, well, let's do it from 2 to 4 because people wanted to go home afterwards. I work at 3:30. But, so that's something.
I work till 6, so. I work till 6, so it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, and that's somebody, if you're going to a different location and you got to get back to your location or a van pool, I could make that. Marshall was the one that brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why she will only ever attend if it's at DOR, because that's where they pick her up.
And depending upon the time.
Yeah.
So that's something to consider.
Well, and as I said at the last meeting, DOR can host as long as I, have the schedule ahead of time. We can reserve that room.
Yeah, we're set up for the next meeting in November.
That's already scheduled, so.
What the date is. And I, for one, really appreciate that. I'm willing to do that.
And this time we'll actually be in the events room instead of upstairs.
Yeah, that is a nice room. I've been in there a couple times. The one thing, I think it is nice to get around to the other people's locations and just especially if someone is presenting and they have a restriction, maybe it's just easier for them to access their material they want to show from their site or something. That may be a factor. And it depends. Part of it is trying to set a room because you never know how many people are going to show up. You might have 10 people, you might have, I think the most I've seen is about 35 people. And the most people showed up, I think probably this time around when we were having a meeting deciding what to actually, are we going to revive these or not. We had 3 or 4 people from a lot of different agencies. I'm here, I had 3 people at the last one. So I guess that's a factor a little bit too, on one side of the room, and who has a room that's, kind of available. We all have boardrooms, but boy, some have busier boards than others too.
There are restrictions as how to even get to them, so.
We have so many training courses that take up the rooms we could use. That's the problem at our facility. Otherwise, we could probably host, but I think it's really tied down. It'd probably be easier to get Springsteen tickets or something.
So any other discussion on?
Did Dane also volunteer to line up like the next topic and who's going to present at it? Because that usually seems like a bit of a challenge, at least for a group.
Yeah,
did he decide to do that, or is someone else willing to do that?
He had started with, and then
okay.
Pushed it to, was he doing like take over and run it, and that was what he had kind of initially offered when we started to put these back together, and then at that meeting, he'd meet with the agenda and deal with the scheduling, the presenters and such. So there isn't anybody that's come forward to do a presentation of some sort for the next meeting. And I kind of have a fallback. It's not really related to IT, but it's good training. It's actually a speaker, a professional speaker and trainer that I met personally because he came before I started in IT, I was in employment training. And when I was in that field, we had him come into the conference and speak. And it's just, all we would need, you can hook up to out on YouTube, I think.
Oh, okay.
It's training, and you will be entertained, amused, and you will be amazed maybe at how you look at the topic of, it's not my job. I'll have to deal with that a lot, but I think it's a good, it's kind of a fallback that it's good and valuable just for our frame of mind, and it's entertaining. So it's just a fallback thing that we could run with some stuff like that and come up with probably in there.
I'd like to run a presentation on something at some point, but I think we're the only agency that uses IBM Wickham, Lotus Works, and that's what we have. So I don't know if something on that wouldn't really probably be valuable to everyone else.
Most beneficial within your agency.
Right, so I'd have to think something that's a lot more, that like SharePoint. Obviously, a lot of people use SharePoint.
And they're expanding.
Whether we want to or not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
At the last meeting, we briefly talked about when and doing the Wisconsin.gov site. The person I know that works there, Lisa, offered to come to this swag group and do a demo of that if people are interested. Do people feel like that would be a good topic?
Yes.
Or do you think it'd be someone, I kind of kicked it around a little bit in an email to just somebody who did the minutes or whatever, and they said someone said it might just turn into like a sales pitch, which, okay, and maybe it would, I don't know. And if you're offended by the sales pitch thing, then maybe don't come to that meeting, but if more people think it would be useful to have Win come and show us kind of how they did Wisconsin.gov and what you would need to do if they developed your agency website, the workflow that you'd go through to maintain it, and content managers and how they would contribute and who would approve it and how it would actually get deployed and published. I think they'd be willing to walk through that. Does that sound like a good topic, or?
I've seen the presentation a couple times.
Have they done it?
Yeah, well, they just did it
to
yesterday.
Each agency?
Right.
Or
well, I've coordinated a couple presentations. One they did yesterday to what we call ITOB at the DNR. That's our Information Technology Oversight Board. So that's our high-level governance. It's deputy division administrators that make up our high-level IT governance. And, they're really light on the sales and stuff. They're not really trying to push this because it's not a big moneymaker for them. It's those transaction-based applications that they're more interested in.
Right.
So this free service that comes along with the state portal, they're not like heavily pushing and marketing. And so I think those pressures come more internally. So it depends on where your leaders are in their position on supporting the state portal is where I've experienced more pressure than from WIN themselves.
Okay.
If that makes sense. But it's an excellent presentation. So I've seen it a few times now. They now have a PowerPoint presentation that goes over the free template offerings. So there's like 3 tiers of their service. One is the free. So if the free web templates work for your agency, then there's no cost up front and no ongoing cost. But if you have to do customization to those templates, I think it's a minimum of $7,000. Then it's 30% maintenance fee going forward. So there is a cost to customization.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, they don't do them internally, they immediately outsource them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
Yeah. I've heard.
What's that?
I've heard if you have them do that additional work, they take it in and they immediately outsource it to somebody else. They don't have a very well-established technical team on the SharePoint side yet. They're recruiting, but I don't think they have it. But then the next level goes from like 7,000 to like 30,000 or something.
And that's for the
Big
application development.
Right.
So if you really need like SharePoint application development, like we were talking about earlier in this meeting, then you're into the next tier.
And they do give you
$50 an hour.
I think we're in the free program as well, but they give you so many hours per month, which right now is 5. Ooh. 5 hours per month for them to go in and tweak things, and they actually are involved with administration of your site and have duties throughout the month, and that's taken right out of that 5 hours. So you may be left with 20 minutes, for them to do things that are outside.
What I was told is this isn't going to cost us anything because of the money that they pull from the applications. So when you want something tweaked, that's where the funds are going to come from, that you're not being built.
Yeah, we haven't.
I haven't seen a contract, you know, and I'm just leery because one of the smartest people I know is one of our attorneys, and he used to be in the software business before he came to this, and I was talking with him about it. I said, I'm just leery. I haven't seen the contracts. I'm a little leery about this. That, you know, there's going to be a big cost here at some point that somebody's going to want this or that, and they're going to say, well, that's, you know, $30,000 with an application charge or something, and so we're really touch it. Well, he says, yeah, well, we used to do a lot of work with the Department of Defense that way, that, you know, we give them something out front, but then we had things set up so that only we could access certain things or make certain things. I mean, it's just, it was ka-ching, that's exactly how we put it. So I'm kind of leery on all of this because it's all set up with a template and you can't touch the template. I asked specifically of Lisa in their last meeting, and I said, well, what if we decide that we want to have something that's in the template, like they simply adding a feature that bolds something in red and increases the size of it. So we want to add it to the CSS. Yeah, we have to do that.
Sorry, Stu, we have to get going, but I will try that at home and let you know.
Yeah, give me a holler and let me know if it works.
Okay.
If not, we'll have to.
Yeah, otherwise, if you've got Chrome at work, you could try Chrome as well instead of IE.
No, we have IE at work.
Okay.
That's it. So, I mean, their Chrome is very restricted.
Okay.
Wynn offered us and actually gave us not the SharePoint stuff, but just all the other CSS content and some images, but they're all the images that are on wisconsin.gov. There's nothing great in there. I don't know if anyone else was aware that they offered that or wanted it.
The CSS?
The CSS to be able to brand your site similar to
Yes.
theirs. Yeah. You could download all that right from their site.
Yeah. I mean,
got
I
the
just
fonts
glanced
and the
at it. I didn't
graphics,
look
but
at
I
it.
never got anything about the CSS.
I think it was when they initially rolled out the portal, they provided the style guides along with that to state agencies. So in there, right, it's the high level kind of thematic color schemes. And
Right.
That kind of weird.
Okay, but it's not the actual.
We didn't adopt any of it yet.
Not the actual style sheets.
Okay. Because I got that with the links to get the fonts and.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of interest to have Lisa come in and talk to them?
Sure.
Doesn't sound like we got any volunteers for anything else, so.
I guess Drupal was on email a couple of times. Is that something that people are interested in?
There are several people using it.
People, I think some of the people, I think, one of them said that, well, I wanted to see what's on the agenda before I come to the meeting. And I think a lot of people have always kind of had that attitude. If something I'm really interested in, they'll go out of their way to come to the meeting. And if it's not, then it all kind of depends on, well, what's my work schedule for today? You know, how much is on my plate for today? And can I get away? And if I can, I'm going to go. Or, you know, they'll say, well, I've got this issue, so I want to go and have this opportunity to talk to some of the other people and see what they're doing. But yeah, SharePoint and Drupal are probably the two biggest ones out there that people are using right now, I think, or in the process of switching to.
We got a list way back when of topics people wanted to cover. Where's that list? And
Yeah, I've got a copy of that list right here.
Yeah, it's in the minutes.
Yeah, it was part of the.
On the website, so it's not there, copies there.
So I could present on Drupal, I guess half, if we wanted to do that, or I could go, so sorry, this is my first SWAG meeting. New to DPI, before that I was at EW colleges. But I've done Drupal for the past 3 years. And
you presented at the DrupalCon or Drupal
camp, yeah.
Last summer, I believe.
Yeah, so, yeah. Past,
There's a good Drupal presenter right there. I said it on his session, so.
So it's something that, my shameless plug for the Drupal meetup, I'm one of the leaders of that. But that's something that we try and alternate nights and during the day because the UW-Madison crowd, they usually can't do it at night. And I have a feeling it will be similar with SWAG. A lot of people have commitments at night. So, especially with just life.
Having a life, yeah.
So,
some people are, they want to hold it at like meal style. I think they have a different agenda.
Yeah. I'm not trying to push the Win thing at all. Our agency decided to not go with the SharePoint stuff on Win right now. In 5 or 6 months, it might be different. I don't know. I mean, we could wait till after the first of the year to invite Win to come and talk. If you want to do Drupal next time.
Or I could do later.
Yeah, I don't think she's going to give a real long,
I don't know.
It was a half an hour. It's pretty high level. But on Thursday, she's going to be presenting to our division web coordinators, or more of our technical crowd, folks like us. And they're going to give some of the first screenshots, which I think maybe DOT has already seen the back end, but I think we're going to see some static images of the back end for the first time on Thursday. So I think this group would be interested in more of a technical overview, not just the free templates that they've been pitching, but really are more interested in the system.
That's what I want to see is how would we need to manage this if it were in our agency?
The other thing I'm curious about, and I don't know, Tom, if you guys have experience with this yet, what's the authoring experience like?
Right. So we are just at a point now where within the next few weeks, we will be populating draft content. So then we'll be presenting that to our authors. They're itching to see it. So over the next week or two, we're going to be scheduling a meeting with our authors to have them come and see it. Just to, a few pages we'll pull out of our public site, drop it in there. There's a lot of challenges. I mean, with DOT, it's a well-established site, so there are some challenges in there. Yeah.
Many agencies have well-established
sites, so yeah, there are a lot of challenges when it comes to trying. I like to say basically you're shoehorning this thing into your site, but there's opportunities then to look at what you have and redesign it. So, but within the next couple of months, I will have a lot of exposure to the product and what they're offering from a WIN's point of view. So I know I can talk a little bit more about it within 2 months, or after 2 months, but we won't be going live though until probably second quarter next year, I would expect. So we've got a ways to go. We're a little bit behind.
Yeah, I have no idea. I haven't been told when our next meeting is. I have no idea. And I think they're shooting for us for sometime yet this year even.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I could.
There's not much of that left.
Yeah, I know. But that was, what the upper management had wanted was concerns of the new website now.
Yeah.
I know if you did come in, have Lisa come in, and if I was here, I would probably have an opportunity to expand upon what she says from a real-world example. So.
Well, with that, I don't see any issue with having her come in and allotting her, say, 45 minutes. Having you come in and do 45 minutes in a group, same meeting.
Sounds great.
An hour and a half, we've got another, half hour then for kind of the open forum and to discuss the next meeting or, whatever is there. So we can do both in one meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be probably ideal for the way we had a lot of meetings, was there was 2 main items on the agenda and then, kind of an open forum. And sometimes the open forum would get away and that would be the whole meeting because there was some people that were pushing it and the talk is, going. But I say let's try to schedule them both at this point because we're kind of done talking about the site management, so that's not going to be a topic until there is a meeting and somebody else wants to revive it.
So do you want to ask Lisa?
I can contact her, sure.
Okay. I mean, I don't feel like I need to be in the middle of it, so you're already working. Okay.
Yeah.
And you've got his contact info, or vice versa? Okay.
Is it possible to teleconference into these meetings?
That's a good point.
It depends on where it's being.
If it's in the events room at DOR, yes. We just need to know in advance if we need to have that ability. So, because then we have to get someone to come in and set up the microphones.
Okay, that'd be nice. I think that it
So,
would be informative to
I mean, like,
come to these.
about a month in advance, we need to know. That's, because there's, like, I think currently there's 2 people in the agency that know how to set them up.
And the next meeting is November.
It's November, yeah.
One of the disadvantages.
Yeah, one of them you definitely don't want to make mad, because she will slap you.
I think I know who that The
Michael
teleconference,
Hampton.
the one bad thing is if somebody's giving, the presentations and they're doing a PowerPoint or something, you're not going to be seeing any of that. Although, some of it's.
Email it to them.
Yeah, something that is available, if we know there's a teleconference going on, we ask, well, okay, can you give it, and we can put it out on the website before the meeting.
At least it would be nice if that could be a consideration.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But it would be nice if you had that,
Sorry?
We do have the capability for, that little device in the center has
Yeah.
it has a directional microphone in it. So we could get the PowerPoint presentation and any walking around and talking. And whatever's up on the screen too.
Mm-hmm.
If that was a desire, we could probably accommodate that in all 3 of these rooms here.
I thought somebody was a Star Trek fan.
Yeah, the person who designed it, yeah.
Looks like something from the Enterprise.
Yeah, it should display 3-dimensional chess on top or something.
Do you have a topic for your Drupal presentation you've done before already? Or you want
Or just how cool Drupal is?
I'll put it in the,
Yeah, I'll send you an email.
in the minutes and stuff, or, well, not minutes, but probably your
high-level overview of Drupal tongue twister today, and some of the cool features of Drupal. And so, just it being open source, it's free, as in free puppies. Free puppies, good luck. Yeah. So.
Free as in beer or free as in
Yeah,
speech?
exactly. There we go. So, Drupal's free. Anybody can use it, but at the same time, it costs money to build and maintain.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's one catch when people always hear open source, it's free. It's not going to cost anything. That's a lie. You still have to have a developer to build the thing for you or maintain it. So, I'll send you an email and.
we have kind of 2 people that maintain ours now, or we have the network guy that does core updates, does backups, and then either myself or one of the other person that is part of the web team but isn't, will do the module updates. Maintain those, and we really haven't done any independent developing of it. Modules that are offering.
Drupal can run on a Microsoft server.
It can.
It can.
Mhm.
Ours is, our internet is.
City of Madison is running
IS,
on IS. All it needs is PHP nowadays. But the LAMP stack, Linux, Apache, MySQL, is what it usually runs on.
Mm-hmm.
Because Apache is free. Linux is free.
There's one thing that I get, has something to do with, what is it? I get it in the reports all the time. It says, I think it has to do with thumbnail imaging on the fly or something. It can't do that without the Apache server. There's something that I see in my status report that
Send me an email sometime. I'll send you one on what's going on, but I'll try and help debug.
It's, well, it hasn't affected the, what we're running or anything, it just shows up in the report when you're, looking to, do update modules or anything, and it's just, this isn't working because, it's not running on an Apache server. It must have an Apache server.
Strange.
Is it part of core or is it a module?
I think it's a module,
Yeah.
because it's listed separately.
Yeah.
It comes way down on the status report.
Then unfortunately, did the developer who wrote the module ever write an IIS version or?
Yeah. Has everybody signed in?
No.
Yes, it is. Got this on the back of it. And we can get you in the minutes for the meeting too, so if your supervisors, oh, where were you? There, it's out on the public domain.